Hey, welcome to Everything You Need to Know About Resume and CV Part 4. If you missed the previous videos, they were about, in Part 1, talked about the difference between resume and CV, and in Part 2, talked about the different sections you actually need on your resume. Of all these possible sections you can have, just need these 5+1, and in Part 3, talked about the rationale, or the purpose behind why you need to write resume, and that will hopefully give you some guidance in terms of what you should be including and how you should be writing your resume, and a little fun fact as well in Part 3 about the ATS, which is a tool. It's a hiring tool that 99% of Fortune 500 companies use. And I actually have a whole entire video on the applicant tracking system, or the ATS, and the HR secrets. So if you want to know more, feel free to go check that video out. I'm Professor Job Offer, and I've spent the last 10 years with a number of Forbes Global 2000 companies and have helped people land job interviews and job offers at companies like this, including Google and Amazon. And I'm here to share with you my tips and tricks on landing your next job offer. So part 4 is the last part in this series, and here I'll be talking about the 3 golden tips for your resume, as well as how to get your questions answered. So let's start with tip number 1, a GPA. So if you have a GPA that's not the highest GPA. You're not the only one. So was this guy, and his name is Denzel Washington, and he was flunking out of college at a 1.7 GPA. So if we do that, how do we make our GPA look better? How do we make our 2.0 into something that may look a little more presentable? First tip in converting your GPA, there's a number of different ways to do it. As you can actually convert your GPA to a 100-point scale, and that's how we're usually graded through prior to post-secondary. It's just in post-secondary, a lot of them use the letter grading, which then converts over to a 4.0 scale GPA. So you can actually Google this, like 4.0 scale to 100-point scale, and you'll be able to find a table that looks something like this. So where let's go to the next slide, and where a 2.7 out of 4.0 actually converts to an 80. An 80 looks a lot better than a 2.7 because our mind automatically thinks, oh, 2.7 parts out of 4, it actually doesn't convert to 0.8. It's just GPA works a bit differently. Same thing, if you have a 3.0, or if you divide 3 by 4, it's like 75% or 0.75. But actually, if you convert to a 100-point scale, it becomes 84% because GPA actually works on a different curve. And on your resume, you can write it as this: cumulative GPA of 80% or 80 out of 100. Right. Another way to actually make your GPA look better is to focus on your concentration or major courses. So we're talking about only the courses that are directly related to your field of study, because sometimes we're forced to take electives or options that we don't have much interest in, and those can bring down your GPA. So if we do that, you just take your major courses. You have to do a little calculation, but your cumulative GPA, including all the courses, might be like 2.7. But if you only take the concentration courses, the courses related to your major, it may rise. It may increase to like a 3.2, which is actually a much better number. And in that case, on your resume, you would write it as GPA from concentration courses or GPA from core courses to represent that. So, and this also works even if you have a better looking GPA. So, like somebody who has a 3.64 out of 4.0 on a cumulative scale, if they just take the concentration courses or courses that are related to their major, it may become like 3.94. And if you do want to show both of that, then to demonstrate that, oh, I worked hard and I have a very presentable GPA, you can write it as something like this: cumulative GPA of 3.64, so that's including all the courses, and in concentration courses, like the core courses that are actually related to my major, I got 3.94 on a 4.0 scale. So yeah, and there is another tip. Actually, there's a third tip on how to make your GPA look better, and there's a whole video on it. So if you missed it, feel free to go check that out, where a 2.7 becomes an 80%. So, and second tip is the education section. I'm actually going to walk you through how to write the education section on your resume line by line. So let's take a look. It may be the easiest section on your resume. It's also one of the critical sections. So let's take a look. Line number 1, you need the very basic information. And there's 2 types of basic information, but this one is just about the degree that you're pursuing, the program you're pursuing, the majors, and the date. And there's a couple different ways to represent this. If you have already graduated, then it's just a different lists in the dates. So you start with your degree, you're getting a Bachelor of Science and majoring in mechanical engineering, and your dates will be just month followed by year. You don't need to put the exact date, like September 14th, you don't need that. So Sep 2007 until the end date of your program, or when you graduated, June 2021. And if you're graduating soon, so if you're expecting graduation in the next year or so, then you can write the exact same thing for your degree and major, but just for the dates, you can you need to represent it by saying expecting, or exp dot, to say, oh, I'm actually graduating relatively soon, so perhaps you can consider me over other candidates who are not graduating in the next little while. I know we're past 2022 June, but this is just an example. And if you're not graduating soon and you're just seeking like an internship, you're in your second year of program or your third year of your program, and you're not sure when you're going to be graduating, then we just say present to represent the date. So just kind of refer to that. And that's the line number 1. Let's go to line number 2. There's also some basic information, but it's going to be basic information number 2, which will include your university or your college and the location as well. So let's just take a look at how universities work. You have like a college or a university, and underneath it you have a number of different colleges. You may have like College of Liberal Arts or College of Business Administration or School of Engineering, School of Dentistry. So that's what I mean. What is like the name of your university? Like maybe, I don't know, Michigan State University, and within that, which college are you part of? So we start with the college, the little college you're part of, right? Bachelor of Science, Mechanical Engineering, in the College of Engineering at the University of Texas, and you put the location in parentheses or in brackets, right? And this person's example, they're expecting graduation June 2023. Here's another one. If you happen to be majoring, if you happen to have a double major, that's a way to represent it. So you can refer to the one on the bottom. So we say School of Liberal Arts at Fordham University in New York, New York. So that's how we write the second line. This is where you write your college name and your university name and the location. Very simple, right? So let's go to line number 3. This is where you put your GPA and total scholarships. Actually, just a few minutes ago, I talked about how to make your GPA look better, so you could definitely refer to that as well. So what do I mean by this? Literally just means you write your GPA and the total amount in scholarships and awards that you received. So let's take a look at this example from the University of Texas. It's hypothetical individual. So GPA from last 20 courses. So we're not going to write the cumulative GPA. We're not writing in percentage, but okay, last 20 courses, my last 2 years of schooling, I got 3.34 out of 4.00. Make sure your decimal places always match. And total amount in scholarships, approximately $15,000 in awards and scholarships. How about this person? Oh, their cumulative GPA from the very first year I started university until now, 3.26. Okay, great. And what's the total value? You can say $7,000 in awards and scholarships. That's what we write in line number 3 in a bullet point. So we actually put a little space, and if you don't know how to do that, then go look up bullets on the Microsoft Word document. And it just makes it easier for the listener, and makes it easier for detection with the ATS. So in line number 4, what do we list? Well, we actually start listing all the list of awards and scholarships. And we do this by writing them in reverse chronological order. So that means that the most recent ones go first. Whatever we received most recently goes first. And if you don't have any awards and scholarships, no problem at all. It may not apply to everyone. And if you don't, then just skip this line and you go straight to line number 5, which I'll be discussing in like 2 minutes here. So you list all your awards and scholarships. Feel free to put the years in there as well, but it's not necessary. And if you're not going to put the years, you can also arrange them alphabetically as well, or in the order of importance. So like this individual, the one on the top, they received the College of Engineering Achievement Award in 2021, and then they go to all the way to the end until University of Texas Entrance Scholarship, which was received a long time ago, right? And the second individual, as you can see, it goes 2021, 2020, and then 2019. So that is how we represent line number 4 of awards and scholarships. So let's go to line number 5, the related courses. This section, everyone's going to have plenty to write about. These are courses that are going to be relevant to the job you're applying for. Also demonstrates your diversity to show that, oh, I'm not only knowledgeable in this area, but I also have some background in economics or fine arts or music. And you list this in alphabetical order just to make it easier. So let's take a look. The engineer is going to have courses in applied physics, calculus, and all so on, so on. And then if their major is mechanical engineering, then they're going to have many courses in mechanical engineering. And in that case, you can actually just put it in parentheses to say I did 12 courses in there right? And this other person who was studying liberal arts, they're going to have like academic and creative writing and the communications and then so on, to list all the courses that you have. Okay. And line number 6, this is probably the place where you can highlight the most, and it's going to be a whole chunk of stuff. So any kind of activities you partook in, you participated in when during your education, during your university. So it may be like being a teaching assistant, TA, or students union research. You can pause the video, but all those things are going to be listed. Same thing here. You are going to list these in reverse chronological order, so the most recent one first, or in the list of importance. And you're not talking about these so much in detail in this section. You're just listing them. So let's take a look. The engineer did an internship at Enfield Technologies from this year to this year, or and they also did. They were also a mentor in the environmental club and so on. Now, about the other one, other person. If you're not going to put them in the order of like reverse chronological order, then you may feel free to write them in the order of importance or relevance as well. So activities and projects, volunteer tutor for local youth or Toastmasters and international exchange, and so on. These are all the extracurricular activities you partook in when you were studying in university. And what is the final step? There's no line number 7. Of course, if you did your master's or PhD, just leave it in the comments and then I'll probably come up with a video if there's enough demand about how to write a CV education section for master's and PhD students, because that's going to be very different from this one. So we just combine it. Line number 1, line number 2, where we have your program name, your major, and then which university you went to with the dates. And then line number 3, remember it's going to have your GPA and the total amount in awards and scholarships. And next line, you list all your awards and scholarships in the reverse chronological order of the dates. And then you list all your courses that are relevant and shows diversity about you. And line number 6, this is your activities. What else did you do while you were in school aside from studying? So now you have a very solid education section. Let's take a look at the second person. Theirs is going to look like this: as a Bachelor of Arts, Communications and Linguistics major, and a double major, and you highlight that. And they're still in the program. They don't know when they're going to graduate, and you go through, from GPA to award scholarships, courses, and activities. And yeah, if you want more details about this, there is actually a full video on it, so you can feel free to go check that out. And just a little side. The longest interview I've ever had was with ExxonMobil. It was a 3.5-hour interview. Yeah. Anyways, I just thought I'd throw that in there. And tip number 3, action verbs. You may have heard of this as you're working on your resume or from your career center to say, oh, you need to use action verbs. Well, why is that? We need to use action verbs because it's easier for ATS detection. ATS is like a filtration system. So if they don't find certain words that they're looking for, which they believe are like key attributes to the job you're applying for, they're not going to even consider you. That's why action verbs are important. Secondly, it's also easier for HR and recruiters as well to show that on your resume you have certain words to demonstrate fit for the job and you have that skill, knowledge, experience. So it makes their job a lot easier. And it also helps to create impact. So let me just show you by a quick example how it creates impact. So action verb, collaborate, right? Cooperate, collaborate, teamwork. These are all kind of related words. So what did you do with that action verb? Well, we raised money for children. Okay, that's great. And what was the outcome? What was the result? And that's pretty much the pattern of your entire resume. Okay, you're going to decide on an action verb. What did you do and what was the outcome? That's $150,000. Okay, let's see how this combines together. You start with an action verb. You kick off and say collaborated, past tense, with a team of 5 during the Christmas campaign to raise $150,000 for the children in need. And then what? Funds were used to purchase and donate food and stationery. Oh, look at that. You start with an action verb. You talk about what you did and what outcome you reached. And you can actually, there's many more examples: collaborated, coordinated, scheduled, and so on. So that's the tip number 3. You always want to lead with action verbs to create impact. And there's actually a whole video that talks about how to use your action verbs in CV, action verbs on the CV and resume with many examples. So feel free to go take a look at that as well. And there's so many different action verbs. We're not talking about like running or drawing, unless those are related. We're talking about interview-related action verbs. And let me provide a list of all these in Google Drive download link in the description. So you can go download it. And quick review. So this little mini series talked about the difference between resume and CV in part 1, and in part 2 talked about the 5+1 sections you want to have and you need to have on your resume and CV. And part 3 talked about the rationale and the purpose behind why do we need to write it and how do we need to write it in a way that I'm going to stand out as compared to other candidates. And this fourth and the last section talked about the 3 golden tips to make your resume look a lot better, including the GPA, the education section, and the action verbs. A little Q&A. So maybe some of you have a lot of questions. They may be personal, related to your personal experiences. That is totally okay. Feel free to please toss the questions in the comments, and they will be answered most of the time. That's all. Thanks for watching.